This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Sunrise Safari, coming to you live from Djuma Private Game Reserve in the Cyber Sands. My name is Steve, and I'm joined by Davisita on camera. We're very excited to have you with us. Now, boys and girls, please, if you have any questions, send them through to kidssquestions@wildearth.tv. We would love to hear from you this morning. And it is a very nice and rather warm 15 degrees Celsius, 59 degrees Fahrenheit. It's warmer than it says it is. But we left camp this morning and we found tracks of a male leopard walking straight through camp. So we're just going to do a little loop around the watering holes. We are at Djuma Dam, or Gowrie Dam. I already hear an aeroplane. Do you hear an aeroplane? Yeah. That's a bit early for an aeroplane. Someone's obviously got an early flight somewhere. But it is a beautiful morning out here with our little grebe floating along the water surface. Doesn't that just look so peaceful? I'm going to keep quiet for a moment so you can enjoy the sounds of the African wilderness. And an aeroplane. I apologize. So, which male leopard walked through camp? No idea. We're going to see if we can figure out who it might be. Very good. Well, we're going to send you over to and Beyond Pinda with Doomy, and he'd like to greet you with a wonderful animal.
Good morning, everyone. This is Doomy from and Beyond Pinda Game Reserve, Private Game Reserve. So we are planning this morning. We're actually looking for some cheetah, but we just come across for a single bull or rhino, so we're going to try to show him to you guys. As you can see, he's moving across the bush. I'm going to come around so we can come across in a better view from there. Okay, so stay with us. We'll be with him shortly. He's cutting across. Looks like he's on a mission, following up some female, because he's one of the dominant male around this area. As you can see, is right. Marcel is going to be zooming on him, but looks like he's coming back under these trees down there. If you look through there, you might be able to see him. He's going back because back there is like a maiden. He might be lost his scent of the female wherever he came from. So for now, he's going to. I'm going to move back a little bit, and while, as you can see, we're kind of losing his video from there, but we'll try to slowly back off a little bit. And here we go from the gap. But yeah, it looks like he must be changing his direction again, because he doesn't want to lose that sense of the female. Look, his tail's up. It looks like he found it again. And yeah, well, let me go back again. Just take a. He's on the right tracks for now. He's on the action for now. We'll be managing to see if he can find it that female is looking for. Because when a female on hit, as soon as he pick up that scent from the maiden, he goes mad, and sometimes you can find him calling, trying to find a female. The way you see he's walking, he might be moving like that, and suddenly he start lifting his tail up and start scent markings. You could see like a hose pipe spray coming out. the way he's running, he's not running away from us. He's more excited what he's got there. Look at that way. If you look at his feet, you can see how much sand is kicking. Yeah, look at that beautiful morning, and you can see that's going to be a beautiful day. As you can see, not even one cloud up on the sky. So he's trying to make sure he's found that female before start getting a bit more hot, because they don't like the heat that much. As soon as they start getting hot, he will lie down under the trees. If you look right above him, the black bird, what you can see there, he's trying to get his luck, that bird as well, trying to see if there's anything been kicked by this run, especially for like grasshoppers and any small insect. So that's what that bird is trying to get his luck as well. Look, not a three, not a, oh, there were 4 British are forked wrongers. Okay. All right, see, he's still moving a lot like that, and we'll see how it goes. But as soon as we'll send it to Tishara with the chameleon, guys, and we'll keep informed as soon as we get back again. Enjoy there.
Morning everyone, how are you? I hope that you're well. My name is Tswalu with BK on camera with me this morning. But I have something special in this bush. I wonder if you can see it. Can you? But BK is going to help you. It's right here. Tell me when. Tell me when you see it. There it is, everybody. It is a flap-necked chameleon. At the moment, you can only see its tail because it's very well hidden. Look at that very cool spiral tail. And it's quite a large one. We had the same chameleon last night.
All the
Insects, yeah. They're happy when he's moving through to the grass.
And here it is, still around. Well, kids, if you have any questions about this chameleon or anything else out here in the bush, please do send your questions to kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. And we can chat about all sorts of things, all the animals and the plants and the soil and the sky, anything you like. This one is hiding its face from us. I would love for you to see its face. But I do know that last night there was another chameleon in the same area. So maybe we can have a look and see if we can find that one. As you can imagine, it can be difficult to find chameleons, especially in the daytime, because they camouflage very well. See how this chameleon is green? And the tree is also green, so it can be hard to spot it at first. But if you know where to look, that can help a lot. Now this tail is very strong. It can hold on to branches and give the chameleon stability. Because chameleons don't move very fast. They move very slow and deliberate. Sometimes they shake a little as they move. Have you seen that? They'll usually do that when they feel threatened. I was just listening out. I thought I heard a whoop nearby. Sam, you'd like to know if it can change its color? It certainly can. At the moment, it's green. The flap-necked chameleons don't become rainbow-colored. They basically stay between green, black, beige, yellowy, and the color's kind of in between that. So they don't get red, they don't get blue. And when they're angry, they get black. They also change their color depending on how they feel. Maybe they feel cold, and if you've ever worn black clothes out in the sun, you know that that can make you quite warm. It's because black is very good at absorbing heat. So when it wants to get warm and it's feeling very, very cold, it'll get darker so it can absorb more heat. Hi, Selma, you're 12 years old. You'd like to know if birds are their biggest predators. Birds will take them. Birds like hornbills, even gymnogenes, other predatory birds, but it's not their biggest predator. Because they're hidden in the trees from above, we call predators that are birds aerial predators because they look from the top to the bottom. From above, you can't really see this chameleon. But what does have a good sense for a chameleon, and unfortunately lives in the same place a chameleon does, is a boomslang. That is a type of snake that lives in trees and likes to eat chameleons. So this one has slept for the night and will actually go out foraging now, looking for insects. Hi, Lizzie, you're 7 years old. You'd like to know, are they poisonous? They're not poisonous. Let's talk a little bit about what poisonous means and what venomous means. Poisonous means that inside your body there is something that you have acquired. That means maybe you ate lots of toxic milkweed when you were growing up. I know that you haven't, Lizzie, but some animals do, like monarch butterflies. So if you eat lots of toxins when you're little, and as you grow, the toxins keep inside your body. And then when something else eats you, you would say that you are poisonous. So these guys are not poisonous. There's no toxin in them that will be bad to something that eats it. Then there's venomous. Venom is not something you've eaten from the outside world and then kept within your body. Venom is made by your body. That's why snakes have venom glands, and they have a way to inject their venom with their fangs. Almost all lizards, now chameleon is a type of lizard, have some sort of venom gland in their mouths. Even a monitor lizard, even little skinks, other tiny lizards, they may not be able to affect you, and it's usually deposited as they chew. So it may actually be, or a better word would actually be, a digestive enzyme. That's something that helps you break down food. So snakes have taken their digestive enzymes and they've modified it. They've made it better and better and better, just like when you have a school project and you do it one time and then you do it another time and another time, or you have a draft and then you do a rewrite and it gets better every time you do it. That's how adaptation and evolution works too. Each generation an animal gets better and better and better at something that helps them survive. So snakes have taken those digestive enzymes in their mouths to a whole new level. While chameleons and other lizards They just have it in a very simple form. Hi Dan, you're 9 years old. You'd like to know how long their tongues are. So usually a chameleon's tongue is about the length of its body, if not twice the length of its body. So if you imagine that this chameleon here is quite large and it's got a little bit more to go, with that tail fully extended is about 30 centimeters. And that tongue should be that length, if not more as well. So smaller chameleons, no doubt their tongue is about twice their body length. But for the bigger ones, it's about a body length and a half. And that's because their tongue is telescopic. Have you ever seen a telescope? A telescope doesn't have to put itself around anything to keep nice and compact. It can pull in and pull out. That telescopic means that it can be compact very easily and pulled out very easily without taking up lots of space. So the tongue is telescopic. It can pull all the way in, and then when the chameleon is ready and sees a prey item, it shoots it out. It kind of has a spring on that tongue, and at the end of the tongue there's something called a hyoid bone. So that's why sometimes if you watch a video of a chameleon sticking its tongue out, you'll see that there's fleshy bits at the end and a sticky bit, but kind of looks a bit weird because it looks like it's going to break in the middle. That's because there's a bone for half of it and then just sticky fleshiness for the rest of it. Hi, Jasmine. You're 12 years old. You have a really cool question. You'd like to know, how can we tell if the chameleon is male or female? I'm going to try and show you, because this one is not in the greatest position to see because there's a couple of branches right in the way. Okay, well, let's have a look. So, where the tail joins the body, right there. Can we get any closer, BK? There we go. Okay, cool. So where the tail joins the body, there is a little bulge. It's called a hemipenile bulge. And if it has that, it's a male. Now, sometimes you have populations and subpopulations, and you cannot see it very clearly. But if it has that bulge, then it is a male. Now, I can see that it has a bulge. If you follow the leg on the left, you go, wee, follow it. And can you see there's a little whoop, bulge? And then the tail starts. So to me, this is a male. But also with the angle and things like that, and also because of their color, they can be quite a solid color. So you have to have a very close look off the vehicle to tell. Hi, Priyanka's daughter. You'd like to know how old this reptile is. I have no idea how old he is. But flapneck chameleons can live for a long time. 12 years, even more. Some say 20 years. They can live for very, very long considering size. But that's not unusual for reptiles, because reptiles are very slow metabolically, so they use very little energy, and they can decide to use very little energy, say when it's cold. Also from moving very slowly. So they age very slowly. We call this in reptiles negligible senescence, which means I age very slowly, which is why things like tortoises can get to 100 years old or more. Shall we go see if we can find the other one, or if we can see the face of this one? Let's try. Now, I love, love, love chameleons. I think they're one of my favorite animals out here. Can we see your face, please, friend? There we go. So now you'll see just how big he actually is. You can kind of see the eye through there. I'm going to move a little bit forward. There we go. There's that eye. Oliver, you'd like to know if the chameleon can lose its tail on purpose if attacked. It can't. That tail is very, very complex because it helps the animal stay on the tree, and it is very strong. It's prehensile, which means that it's got excellent movement and strength. So it cannot grow it back or drop it when something is in pursuit of it. But remember, let's think about its lifestyle and why that wouldn't be necessary for its lifestyle. Geckos and lizards that can drop their tail when they are being chased, they move pretty fast, right? They're also on the ground. They also are pursued by things that can run fast too. Now, a chameleon is not pursued by any of those things. So it's not necessary for them to drop that tail. Oh no, chameleon, I hope that you get tucked away because Steve has one of your predators not too far away.
Yes, well, thank you, Josh. We know you go a bit crazy for chameleons, so well done for finding them again. And these are not necessarily chameleon eaters. Well, there they go. There's a pair of them, African hawk eagles. They're nesting up on the left here. For the last 3 years now, they've nested in this nest just on the top of this big knobthorn tree on the left-hand side, the hawk eagles. You've got it there, Darby, that one up there. It's a typical platform nest that large raptor birds utilize, and these guys have done so. This is the 3rd year they seem to be actively using this nest. I don't know if they've actually laid eggs yet, but we have seen them bringing more sticks back. That's what we call a platform nest, and it's in at the top of the most inaccessible tree around, a giant knobthorn. Now, from conservation points of view, the Kruger National Park and the Sabi Sands and all these other areas are seeing a huge loss in trees like the knobthorns. You can see just over my shoulder, here's a very good example of the bark stripping that takes place of these trees. And giant trees that are the preferred nesting tree for vultures and large raptors are dying. Many of them are being removed. So that lends itself to massive conservation discussions. But off they go. They're primarily hunters. Those birds are primarily hunters of game birds, Franklin's guinea fowls. They will feed on a few rodents. They've been known to go for fruit bats as well. Maybe even a squirrel. But they hunt in a pair, which makes their hunting strategy very successful. Just here on the eastern side of the property now. We're going to just see if anyone's come in. Not sure where that male leopard went. He went into the area where Trishala's hanging out, so see if she can pick up on those tracks. But over in Pridelands, Taylor McCurdy would like to say good day. I think she's got some birds herself.
Good morning and welcome to Pridelands. We've had a bit of a later start, but we found some animals we haven't really been seeing much of. So there are 3 white-backed vultures sitting up in the tree and the gorgeous Drakensberg Mountains just behind them. Isn't that lovely? What a great way to start. I got quite excited hoping that there'd be something dead on the ground. We haven't found it yet. My name is Taylor McCurdy, and on camera with me today is Gert, and it is freezing. I'm going to try and get a little bit closer. Let's see if we can have a better look at these vultures. There's been quite a few vultures sitting up in the trees in this area, but I know there are a few nests around here, and we are coming into vulture breeding season. We shall talk about that in a minute. See if we can just sneak a little bit closer. Think this should be good. There we go. Ooh. I don't want to get too close to them, otherwise they might fly away from us. But you can see sitting right at the top of the tree. They're all fluffed up. They're very, very cold this morning. Can you imagine having to sleep out in the open like that? How chilly it must be. But luckily for vultures, they have got specially designed feathers that help trap the warm air and keeps them, basically it's like having an electric blanket wrapped around you. So they probably weren't as cold as I was last night. And it could be quite nice. They're sitting right on the top of a knobthorn tree, just reaching up into the sun. And it's always quite spectacular when they sunbathe. So that's what they're doing now, is they're just absorbing all the warmth from the sun. And just like that one is doing on the left, they're going to start to preen themselves, so to clean their feathers. And if we're really lucky, we might even see a vulture stretch its wings out. And they've got an enormous wingspan. But they don't look like they're ready to go anywhere just yet. So when we travel down this road, we're going to keep an eye out for a vulture nest. I know that there is one with 2 adults sitting on top of it, so hopefully we will be able to find it. But we shall see. We'll see if I'm on the right road. I think I'm on the right road. And it's nice because it's right in clear view. And we should have the Drakensberg directly behind it as well. So fingers crossed that we have signal and all those wonderful things. So I kept my eye out because normally when vultures roost like this, and like I said, there were quite a few others sitting in the tops of the trees, it may be an indication that there are some predators around. But the only predators that I can see that have been running around on the ground so far are hyenas, and we know that they're more active at nighttime. Anyways, we're going to stick with the vultures. I'm going to send you across to Tswalu, who has found a creature that is actually starting to wake up.
Okay, so we have now found our second chameleon. Now, this one's color is very, very close to the color of the bush that it's in. Can you spot it, kids? Okay, I'll ask BK to help you. BK, please help the kids find the chameleon. It's looking straight at you. Now, there's a few things that are different about this chameleon to the last one. One is the color. You can see that's much darker green. So maybe it's feeling a bit colder. Maybe it's a bit more aware about the color of the bush that it's in. And also, it looks like there's toilet paper all over this chameleon. Has it been playing in toilet paper? No, it's been shedding its skin to renew it. Tane and Tora, you'd like to know if chameleons live in groups. No, they don't. Chameleons are territorial. So one chameleon doesn't like other chameleons. So they prefer to be in a bush by themselves, and they don't like to tolerate other chameleons. What they will do is if it's time for them to mate, then males will allow females in their territory and females in the male's territory. Now, usually, males will only attack chameleons. Now, their territory is small, and all the resources that they need are around them. much like this bush is. So that's why this chameleon and the one that we had just before are not very far from each other. They're about 20 meters from each other, but that's sufficient. Now, they will fight if they come in contact. And you'll find that they'll get angry and feel a little bit aggressive, and they'll go very, very dark. So we were talking about the shedding of the skin. You can see on the head, there's also on the legs, a whole lot of skin that's starting to peel off. Now this looks like not as large as the last one, probably about 20-25 centimeters. So I would say it's an adult, and an adult chameleon sheds about once in 2 months. When they're younger, they shed about once in 3 weeks. And when animals shed, when reptiles shed their skin, it's quite an uncomfortable time. Sorry guys, I'm just listening. This is a really good spot to stop and listen, which is why I'm glad we have these chameleons here. And I thought I heard some alarm calls ahead of us. But I'm going to sit tight a little bit longer until I'm sure. Just found it quite far away. Chameleons are super cool. Look at the way they move their eyes. So if you have any more questions, please do send them through at Kids Questions at wildet.tv, because I love talking about chameleons. Well, let me send you over to Taylor. She's got a better view of her animal, and I'm going to keep an ear out on this side.
We've actually moved on from the vultures that we had in the tree because I was on the right track and we're on the right road to find the vulture that was sitting in the nest. I'm very happy because I haven't been able to show you this just yet. So on top of that very messy nest you can see with all the sticks is a vulture. Now, it's most likely one of the adults, but I haven't seen anything happening just yet. It's a tight view, so hopefully over the next few days we can keep coming back here and just have a look. So that nest you can see is made with pretty much just sticks, and they have to make their nests on the tallest of trees, normally a knobthorn tree or a marula tree, or sometimes they'll even use power lines and they'll make their nest all the way up top there. But you can see it's actually not that big considering how big a vulture is, right? But on the inside, sometimes they'll put grass or maybe even a few leaves every now and then just to make it a little bit more comfortable, because I can't imagine that those sticks will keep you very warm. Now, a great question from Jabu regarding vultures hunting. Unfortunately, the way that vultures have evolved, they've got these really big stubby toes, so they aren't able to hunt very well. There have been some recorded cases of vultures hunting, but you know, in an area like this, there is no need for them to, and they typically scavenge on carcasses. That's pretty much what they do. So now coming to dry season, into winter, we're going to see a lot more vulture activity, which is really awesome. It's sad, of course, for the animals that they're feeding on, because the dry season can be quite tough, but it just means that only the fittest and the strongest animals will survive, and the vultures will do the cleaning up and get rid of any carcasses that are around. So when the chick hatches, mom and dad, so the male and female vulture, will take turns and they will feed the vulture, the little chick, but it depends on the adults for quite some time. It's a very slow process. Sort of the incubation of an egg, it can take almost 2 months before it even hatches, and then it is fully reliant, so it depends on both its parents for another 4 to 5 months after that, which is crazy, so it's got to get food. And then when it gets to about 6 months old, it can fend for itself. So it spends quite a long time at home. Well, for a bird, it spends quite a long time at home. But we shall see, hopefully, over the next few days, and the adults come back. I have seen 2 vultures sitting up here before. That was about a week ago. But we just didn't have enough signal to show it to you. Lindy, who's only 4 years old, they do a really good job at actually keeping their little babies. We call them chicks. Little baby birds are called chicks. So, like I was saying earlier, they have these special feathers that help trap all the warm air. And by just ruffling their feathers up a little bit and then sitting down on top of that egg, so they're very gentle. Even though they're heavy, they're not going to break the egg at all. But those feathers will surround the egg, and from their body temperature will help keep them warm. So you might find that 1 day or 2 days you'll have mom sitting on the egg, and then she needs a break. She needs to go and find something to eat, and then dad will come in and he'll take over. So both of these parents will look after this chick from incubating it, so keep helping the egg develop, and then when it hatches as well. So it's quite nice that they share those roles with one another. It's quite cool. You can also see it blinking every now and then, which is really awesome. So we're actually very lucky. We can see so many different species of vultures in this area. And because we're so close to the Drakensberg Mountains, we are lucky and we get to see Cape vultures quite regularly, because they don't nest in trees like the white-backed vulture does. They look very similar though. They like to nest on the cliff faces and the Drakensberg Mountains, and there's another set of mountains not too far away from here where the vultures like to, well, the Cape vultures like to go and nest too. So we should keep an eye out for them. But those sightings are gonna get really, really cool, especially if the lions catch something big, and then they'll definitely come on in and sit in the trees around them. But you can see that they've been here for quite some time. You can see, look at all the feces, all the poo on the branches. That's that white stuff that you can see. So I don't actually know how long the vultures have been on this nest for. But they'll definitely use the same nests every breeding season, which is only once a year. Good spot, Arno. Vultures don't really have feathers on their heads, and that's a special adaptation. You know how we were talking about vultures being scavengers and the cleanup crew? So they like to eat on carcasses, and that's very, very messy. So what they'll do is they'll stick their heads right inside the carcasses and get covered in blood. So if they've had feathers around their head, well, lots of feathers, oh my goodness, it would be such a nightmare to try and clean it all the time. So they have this adaptation where they've got these almost featherless, long necks to reach into all sorts of crevices to find yummy food to sort of eat in dead animals though. They're not going to stick their heads in the holes of trees looking for worms and things like that. They just eat meat. And sometimes there's even a vulture, it's called a hooded vulture, and that's the smallest vulture that we see. We will definitely see them because they're very common. They like to eat lion dung. Can you believe it? Because there's lots of blood inside there, and that's like one of their favorite treats. It's like chocolate for vultures, well, specifically the hooded vulture. And then you even get another vulture, which you can see towards the east coast of South Africa, called the bearded vulture, and they are very clever. They like to eat bone marrow, and they will break open bones. So the vultures are very clever. I know everybody doesn't like them, but they're very important to have in the ecosystem to control diseases and to clean up carcasses. And sadly, vultures are not doing so well. They are being persecuted, so they are being harmed for lots of different reasons. So we need to protect even one of the ugly five. Yes, vultures are part of the ugly five. We don't always just talk about the big five. That's very sweet. I'm just looking around. Those other vultures can we show them we're going to just move off the nest quickly, because the 3 vultures that we had earlier, they moved off, and they're not sitting too far away. They're actually just sitting in a tree in the distance. You can see them. They look like little specks though. Little Christmas decorations on a tree. There they are. Still all fluffed up. Starting to wake up slowly. And grooming those shaggy feathers. You can see there some feathers actually dropped from the vulture on the right. And there's also a fork-tailed drongo that's sitting up on the top of the tree with them. They can be a nuisance, those birds. They're very intelligent, but they're quite territorial, and they'll often chase other birds and bop them on the head. They don't seem to be bothering the vulture. Well, it doesn't seem to be bothering the vultures. Now, we've been hearing roaring lions all night long, so I'm going to try and find them for you. off you go to Sean at Ngala and see what he'll be searching for this morning.
Okay, so good morning everybody and welcome to the Sunrise Safari here at Beyond Ngala. So this morning you'll be with myself, Sean, and we've got the OD behind the camera. Now, unlike Taylor, we have not heard lions calling, but we have seen their tracks. So we got tracks of the entire, what we believe to be Birmingham Pride. And we were on the way to where Rowan left them yesterday. And then the tracks, oh, what is that? It's an impala. And their tracks turned and headed straight back down towards the tented camp. So that's what we are following now. They crossed over the Tswalu River, which is just off to our right hand side. And they are headed in this direction. So we got one of our trackers, we got Rowan down there in the river. He's walking up this way. We looped around to come on this side to see if we can find them. Very, very, very frosty morning here. It's very cold. So I'm hoping that the lions are either still walking or they have stopped somewhere in the sun. So now you can imagine if it's cold now at 1, 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, it was very, very cold. So these lions will actually go and sit or lie down in a sunny area just to try and warm up and try, just to get some heat back into their bodies. There's no sign of them here yet, but if they're coming up there, they could be hunting. Remember yesterday, I'm sure you all watching Rowan's drive or have seen the highlights, but the one female stole that impala carcass and then it got stolen again. But it looked like they were hungry. They were following the vultures, trying to scavenge food. They did try and hunt one herd of impalas while we were there. So I think they were looking to hunt last night. And it was good conditions. It was very windy last night, which would make it quite easy for the predators, any predator, lion, leopard, even the hyenas, to hunt. So that's what I think they were doing. This area on our right hand side is known as Big Bend. You can see very dense, very thick. Good place for buffaloes, for bushbucks. Deep on the inside there are a few clearings where you'll find some impalas, some wildebeest, maybe even some giraffe. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, Birmingham Pride got something. That'd be very, very cool to see. But as of yet, no vulture activity flying around here. I heard you were talking about vultures. No vulture activity yet. But the morning is still young. Still young. What I did hear last night is a leopard. At about 3 o'clock in the morning, I woke up and there was a leopard rasping. I couldn't say exactly where, I was still in my bed, but somewhere close to the tented camp, which was pretty cool. Didn't see any tracks, but it could have been across the river on this side. So maybe we'll see some tracks as we do a loop around. But it's going to be an exciting day. Sun's already out, it's heating up nicely. I've taken off my beanie, taken off my gloves. So I think it's going to be a good day. Feeling quite positive that we're going to find ourselves some predators. I've heard we've already seen, oh no, it was a rhino on Ambient Pinder. But it's some good diversity. What do we have here? No. But it's amazing how these animals, whichever one it may be, lion, leopard, giraffe, elephant, the sort of amount of distance that they can cover. Even something really, really big like a 6-ton elephant, they can walk 20, 30, 40 kilometers a night. Or a day rather, a day. A lion can walk 10, 12, 15 kilometers in a night. In one night, they can just go. And I imagine those tiny little cubs that we've all grown to love, with legs about this long, trying to cover that sort of distance. And they were the first tracks that we actually saw, was the mother with the 2 little cubs. So they are doing this, they are covering that sort of distance. Okay, so it seems like we have come to the end of our kids drive. It was lovely to have you all. You're still welcome to ask questions, but we are now answering questions from everybody. Please remember, you can send your questions to hashtag Wild Earth on Twitter and at FC on the YouTube channels. Please send your questions through. It's always lovely answering all of your questions, especially the ones that we don't actually know the answers to. It's a lot of fun. Keeps us on our toes, keeps us learning. I haven't seen any tracks come out here yet, so I'm actually going to turn around and try a different section. So while we continue our search for, at the moment, just tracks, what we're going to do is send you across over to Tswalu Kalahari, where Dylan would like to say good morning.
Good morning from another absolutely beautiful day at Tswalu Kalahari. Jean-Ray on camera and myself, Dylan. It's great having you with us as always. As you can see, it's a very, very overcast day today. As far as we can see in direction, we've got complete cover. There's a tiny little gap out there with that glorious sunrise coming up over there. It's quite chilly this morning. It's not as windy as I was expecting. It blew a gale here last night. At about 2 o'clock this morning, it started dying down. But you can see the sand has been very, very smoothed over. But what a sunrise, eh? Look at that. Just that salmon pink glow in the clouds there. Yeah, so it's just going to be another amazing day. We have nothing in particular that we're going to be looking for. But yeah, it's just fun being out and going and exploring and seeing what we can find. And it's always great having you all with us on this. Yeah, I'm still like on a buzz from last night. Jasmine has just asked, is it dangerous tracking animals on foot? And the answer is yes and no, not normally. So if you're going very carefully and you're kind of adhering to all the basic principles of of working with animals in the outdoors, then it's absolutely fine. Obviously we take every precaution, and the principle that I use is to give animals as much space as possible. Like I think last night with those honey badgers and that, there's no need to go and sit like right up there, even if you know they're there. And if you're on foot as well, there's absolutely no reason, even when you're tracking animals, to try to get as close to them as possible. The ideal is actually to move into a sighting and move out without them even realizing that you're there. So that's always kind of what we strive to do. But I mean, yeah, you can bump into animals at close range without knowing that they're there. But in just about 25 years working in the bush, I've yet to have any incident with an animal, and that's not because of necessarily of my skills at all. It's just animals avoid conflict. Animals don't want to attack people normally. Any attacks like that are very, very unusual, and it's normally human error that induces that. But yeah, and it's just fun to be out on foot, and that's why I like getting out and getting down and looking at little things, because that's really, really where you start getting it. I always like saying that with nature, it's like osmosis. You absorb it through your feet, and being in the vehicle is great for being able to cover distances and getting to different sightings. But there's really no substitute for actually being on foot in the outdoors. Look how fast that color is fading out there now. And these clouds are still moving in very, very rapidly from the south, which is pushing off the Atlantic, that cold air. But while we enjoy that, we're going to grab a cup of coffee while we're on the road looking for more things. But then head over to Steve and see what they got down for you in the Lowveld.
Thanks, Dylan, and welcome back, everybody, to Djuma Private Game Reserve. My name once again, Steve, joined by Davi. And we've done a boundary patrol so far. We went through the reserve to the eastern side, checked the eastern boundary. We're checking the southern boundary just to double check no lions have coming in. Yesterday, a pride of lions came in and went out again in the night. Yesterday morning, that is. We're just double checking none have come in. If they have, we'll go and find them. Male leopard tracks that we had first thing this morning never came out near the dam, so Trish said she was going to see if she could find them in the area she was in. And now we're going to slowly go back into Vuyatela to check in the southern boundary quite thoroughly. Do a little bit of a water patrol. See what's, sorry Darby, see what's going on at the water. We're gonna go a little pan just here on the right. You might pick up on some herds of buffalo or some elephants, or maybe a sleeping leopard or lion at one of our watering holes. It's always this time of year in the winter months, checking water is very, very important. Very, very important. Just a little gap in the vegetation. Everything seems to be pretty quiet. It's been quite a windy evening since yesterday, and the wind has provided also a warm front. So the warm front often is followed by a cold front, and that's true because it's raining down in the Cape. It's going to be cold here probably tomorrow, or at least this afternoon already. So the wind is often something that we find the animals responding to, especially our predatory animals. They move quite efficiently with the wind. The wind causes them to move because the shaking of the vegetation due to the leaves moving in the wind masks and stealths the movement of lions and leopards, which actually makes hunting for them easier. They do hunt by ear, but also a lot by sight and smell. And they're quite concealed and sneaking up on herbivores or prey animals that are trying to conceal themselves. It's much easier when your footfalls are masked by the wind. Just another little water point there. We're going to go to Treehouse watering hole now. Let's have a look what's going on and then move back into the heart of Djuma, see what we can come across. Probably go and sit by Treehouse watching or have ourselves a lovely little coffee. What do you think, Darby?
Sounds good.
Darby's quite excited. Okay, well, Tswalu is watching the sun come up over in the Kalahari, so let's send you back over to them for some wonderful images.
How incredibly beautiful is that sunrise? Do you see that mountain peak glowing in the distance there? See that? Wow, wow, wow. Absolutely incredible. Asnan has just asked a really cool question about the climate here, and the question is, do we ever get really foggy days with no sun? We do occasionally, very, very rarely. It's the kind of day that we've got today where it's completely overcast. Okay, there's a bit of a glow pushing through underneath the clouds, and that's probably, I don't know how many kilometers away from here. That's 100 kilometers away from where we are now, but it's just pushing under there. But otherwise, we're totally overcast. Days like this are normal. At certain times of the year, if you're in the rainy season, yeah, you can get these big overcast days and that. But it's on exceptional occasions that we've had completely foggy, drizzly days where you cannot see these hills at all. This low cloud that you can actually, Jandre, if you can maybe, I don't know if you are able to even pan past that your antenna there. If you can see the the low clouds now scudding over the top of those hills. We get days occasionally where you cannot see those hills at all. And even these dunes that we're standing on this really high dune at the moment, and even these are covered by low cloud. But it normally doesn't last the whole day, but it can, but it's very rare. In fact, we've had, I've been at Tswalu now almost, just over 15 years, and during that time I've had 2 occasions where we've actually had snow at Tswalu. Not a lot of snow, but vehicles coming in at different points of the reserve had about an inch of snow on the back of the vehicles. So that's very, very unusual. So we've only had that twice, and both occasions have been in August. But yeah, but the standard thing is like 350 days of clear skies a year. Back to the animals. So Butterflies just asked, what animals are in those mountains? So we've got some very, very special animals that live up in the hills. And unfortunately, just the way the signal is working at the moment, if we get right up to the base of the hills, then we just lose it. But we'll try occasionally. But we've got really interesting things like Hartman's mountain zebra. It's a species that is restricted to the hilly areas. They'll only come and off it in the evenings. They'll drink water, and then they'll go straight back into the hills again. We also get things like, there's a really cool snake, and not everyone likes snakes, but I enjoy them. But it's called a black spitting cobra. Beautiful, beautiful. They get quite large, but they pitch black and very, very shiny, and they are restricted to these hilly areas. We get little sengis, or these elephant shrews, these incredibly cute little insectivores, got a little long snout on them, super round ears, and the one up here is called a rock elephant shrew. They live up in the hills, and we get ones called a Smith's red rock rabbit. It's a true rabbit. So those of you who joined us when the cheetah caught that hare, that was called a scrub hare. Those are hares. But then we've got a true rabbit, a real rabbit, gorgeous. It's a little fluff ball like that, quite a dark tail, like a reddish orange color. They live up in the mountains, and but for those to see those, then we'll actually really need to be in. But Jandre and I have a plan over the next couple of weeks, and I hope we can pull it off. There's absolutely no promises, but we're going to try something like quite different. And it'll be quite fun if we can get it right. And I'm not saying we'll see any animals, but we really want to try to do a bit of a hill segment, or a couple of those over the coming weeks. But we'll see. So we're going to move on and just see if we can keep on looking for whatever's out there. And so just keep sticking with us, enjoy it, and in the meantime, head over to Tswalu and see what they're on to this morning.
Nice, Dylan. I hope that you'll have as good an afternoon or as you did yesterday afternoon with those honey badgers. That was amazing. Now I'm driving along looking for tracks. Nothing so far, but I did come across very pretty Birchall starlings having breakfast. Also a good opportunity to stop and listen. I did hear about wild dogs in the north, so be really nice. Well, I am going to be in the north anyway. If they decide to come down this way, would be awesome. Now, these are one of my favorites. Can never choose a favorite ever. But one off. That's because their color is just so beautiful. Oh, I wish there was a patch of sun it could walk into so you could see the difference. Looks pretty dark in the shadow. Once they come into the sun, oh, they're just beautiful. Almost like a gemstone. Like an alexandrite mixed with mica, all shiny in different colors. Just gorgeous. I'm hearing some francolins. I hear a black-headed oriole. But I'm not hearing any alarm calls. Oh, Cape turtle dove just warming up with that shrill. Very peaceful morning. Lovely, peaceful morning. Let's just get onto the dam wall, see if the monitor lizard is there and if the hippo is there. It's not just the Cape turtle doves that have to warm up their throats, but also Rusty. She's a little bit... But I'm going to send you over to what I imagine is a bird.
You thought correct. We do have a bird, and it's a bird I have never seen at this watering hole. This is the giant kingfisher, and it is a male. And many people say, how on earth do you know it's a male, Steve? And, well, it's quite easy to remember, everybody. Have a look at the brown on the chest. Okay, the male has got a brown chest, and the female has got a spotted black chest with the brown below. A brown belly, male's got a brown chest. Quite easy to remember, because men have hairy chests normally, so it's quite an easy one to remember. The giant kingfisher, I haven't seen many of them actually in Djuma. I've seen a couple down at Chitwa. Obviously they are fish-eating birds. Will also eat frogs and crabs. And I've seen one killing a fish before that was longer than its body. And it just beats it and beats it and beats it and then swallows it head first. Very, very interesting grip it has on the beak. Have you ever tried to hold a fish with your hand? It's very slippery. And a kingfish is able to hold it in the beak and maneuver it. And they often beat their prey vigorously against a stick. Obviously, they want to kill it before they swallow it. But that fish, it kept swallowing, and the tail was still sticking out its mouth, so it would regurgitate and then beat it again, and then swallow. Just couldn't quite get it in. I don't know what happened. We watched it for about half an hour until eventually we had to go. It's a typical type of fishing that they do, sitting on a perch. Nice. You've never seen a giant kingfisher this morning, have you, Darby?
Not on Zoom.
There he goes, just flying. Oh, he's got... I'm just going to play the call for you. Just listen into my hat as he flies away. It's a very loud cackling sound. This is off of my bird app. Very easy to remember if you hear that call. Cackling, laughing. So we're at the watering hole, and we've got a couple of black-sword laprings over there, Darby. While we're sitting here, we've enjoyed ourselves a small little coffee. And now these aquatic birds. Hello, Pineapple. You want to know if kingfishers travel in pairs? Well, you don't often see them in a pair, but they are monogamous, so they will breed as a pair, but you don't often see them moving around as a pair. They're obviously fishing, and fishing is done best alone. Oh, did something just happen there? I think we just saw something that you don't do by yourself. It seemed to be a very quick little mating session that happened there. So kingfishers are monogamous. Now, monogamous, I can't even say the word. To be monogamous in birds doesn't necessarily mean those birds pair for life. That's an important thing to discern. It means that there can be a pair for at least one season, sometimes two, whereby the male has to then prove again to the female that he is an efficient provider, hunter, whatever it is that the male is supposed to be doing. So it's not always that they will be together for life, at least for a season, before she either decides he's not good enough. Hello, River. You want to know how long is the mating process? It's nothing like cats. They mate a couple of times. Sometimes it might even just be once, depending on the birds. I'm obviously no expert in bird mating, but there's probably a lot more in the display and the elaborate adornment or the nest building or all of that takes place. The romance in birds is far long-standing, or takes far longer than the actual mating. The mating is very quick. It's only moments and then they move on. With larger birds, maybe it's different because we see vultures mating repeatedly. But small birds can get away with one mate and the eggs are fertilized. And it's a very, very quick process. But to get the female willing to mate sometimes requires an enormous amount of effort from the male. Provision of food, building of nests, display flights, intricate feather patterns and dances. Not like cats, which is something known as induced ovulation, where repeated mating leads to fertilization. Hello, Fern. Many kingfishers, like the giant kingfisher, nest in cavities and banks. There's sort of a cavity that slides up like this at an angle. The pied kingfisher, the brown-hooded kingfisher, the grey-headed kingfisher, the giant, all nest in cavities and banks. Some of them, the grey-headed, can also nest in aardvark holes, but in a cavity in the bank. So they actually physically have to dig it out, and they can use their feet for doing so, similar to some bee-eaters. And then other kingfishers will live in old cavities created by woodpeckers and barbets in trees, like this one. Sometimes you find it very quickly, right above our head. I don't know if it's going to work. That's an old one, right above us here. That's not going to work. Still back a bit. How's that? Okay, so many birds rely on cavities in trees, like this one over here, just on the left there. This one's a bit old and it seems to be a bit aerated and broken down, but cavities get created in wood by woodpeckers or by wood-eating insects or larvae, such as wood-boring insects. And woodpeckers access them with their beaks and then create wonderful cavities inside trees like this, a marula, which can have multiple cavities in them while they are still alive. So very, very important habitat trees for nesting. And obviously kingfishers that eat fish are quite often, or should I say always, found along riverbanks. So it makes sense that a riverbank with its side with cavities into the side would be the ideal breeding place for those birds. Hope that answers your question. And for the most part, kingfishers are quite dirty parents. Many birds will actually take eggs, fecal sacs away from their chicks in the nest and take them away to deposit so that there's no smell, it doesn't attract predators. But kingfishers and hoopoes, wood hoopoes, don't do that. They actually allow the nest to get soiled and smell. Ooh. So that is what's supposed to keep predators from going in and eating their chicks. A very smelly fish diet of poo. You can imagine that's probably enough to deter the hungriest of predators, and it seems to work for the most part. Obviously not every chick hatched is going to survive, but if it didn't work, kingfishers would have adapted another strategy. Okay, so away from the water we go. It's a relatively quiet morning out here after the amounts of activity on the property yesterday. Those of you watching might notice sometimes when we're driving, we're swerving all the time, trying not to drive on any elephant dung. It's a community all on its own. Don't forget, everyone, we are also live and interactive. Love to hear from you. You send through your questions, hashtag Wild Earth, throw them in the YouTube chat stream or Twitch. We're going to go check towards the west now and then do a cut through the middle. If we don't find any tracks, we might go and say good morning to Chitwa once again, as it can be quite profitable down there sometimes. Okay, very good. We're going to go check the west, and then while we do it, we're going to send you west over to Tswalu Kalahari with Dylan.
So we're still just ambling along, seeing if we can pick up any tracks of anything interesting. We're very, very lucky. John and I were just talking about how cold it is at the moment, but we're very lucky that, you know, there's hardly a breath of wind out here. It's just if we're moving, then you get that wind chill factor, but otherwise there's very little air movements at all, which is great. So we're hoping the cold temperatures are fine as long as we don't get that breeze blowing. Then it'll get quite miserable. But any day out here is a good day. That's the thing. Cold or not. So there were reports of cheetah in this area, actually a female with small cubs, but she's not that relaxed apparently. So we just, out of interest, sort of zigzagging along these roads and seeing if there's any kind of sign of her whatsoever. That'll be a long shot. But then also anything else interesting. Maybe we get owls roosting in a tree, or let's go down this way a little bit here. I hope you're all snug and warm at home and have something hot to drink with you, keeping safe. We're giving the meerkats a bit of a breather this morning. And also with these cold temperatures, it's very unlikely that they're going to be coming out for quite a while anyway. But Rebecca, our meerkat habituator, she's going to be popping in and just checking up on them as well. So if there's any action going on down there, we can pop in as well, no problem. I don't know if any of you have seen old Mel got dressed up for this weather, Mel Gibson. Melanie Mark II, Melanie 2.0, Mel Gibson, Mel Gibson, Baron von Gibsonham. See, there's very few tracks on the road with this wind that's been blowing, so if we get anything over this, it'll be really fresh and we'll be able to see it very, very clearly. So there's advantages to having like this kind of inclement weather that comes in occasionally with strong winds, that it really gives you a nice clean slate to work from. Delphi, we do see ostriches here, and we do see little ostriches as well sometimes. We're actually out of the nesting season now, but occasionally you get these lovely big groups where you'll get a dominant male and a female, and you can have 15, 20 chicks with them at a time. There's quite a high mortality rate on the little ones, and that's just normally through predation. Yeah, that's caracal, jackal, leopards, birds of prey occasionally as well. But yeah, we definitely see ostriches, and we definitely see young, tiny little ostriches, and they're absolutely gorgeous little things. Very, very sweet. But all baby animals are cute, except for one. Oh, it sounds like Ngala. They've got some baby animals to show you that side. So head over that way.
So indeed we do. We have managed to track down the Birmingham Pride. Fantastic. And just as we thought, in an open area, in the sunshine, just trying to warm up. So amazing. We kind of sandwiched them in between myself and Rowan. So Rowan was walking from one side, I was driving from the other side, and we saw the tracks, and I was like, oh, Rowan, I got tracks. And then we're like, we got the whole pride here. But look at the little one. So you can see that little one now is playing with one of the other youngsters, the older ones. But they've become a lot more sort of playful, a lot more explorative now. You can see one of the old lionesses standing up. Okay, so have a look there. There we go. So you see the lioness. So she just bumped heads. That is the young male. If I got a lioness. That is the young male there. Yeah, he's with the pride, looking good, in the middle, having a fantastic time. We saw him actually walk here. His limp has improved greatly. He's still limping, but he's putting pressure on it. He's walking on it. So it's better. It's not healed, but it's better. It's so fantastic to see them. You see the little, here's the young male cub walking down the middle. There he goes, going to go play that sister there. So this is the first time that we have seen them being so playful with the rest of the pride, because their mother is actually the closest lion to us. So from where those cubs are playing, she's probably 7, 8 meters away. So you see here, yeah, that one there is the mother. This is the mother. You can see she's passed out, very relaxed, very calm, not worried about the cubs. And yet both of the youngsters are playing right at the back there with the older ones. So you can see now, it seems like they have fully sort of assimilated into the pride now. And she's comfortable with the way the other ones treat them. She's like, okay, everyone's friends, everyone's going to look after, which is fantastic. You know, it is great news. You remember at the beginning when Rowan first saw that introduction in the river, and this young white female was so inquisitive. See, she's now on her way there. She should pop into the screen shortly. There she is on the left. And she's not that determined to play with them anymore. Probably got used to it, that novelty's worn off. She's like, okay, I know what these little things are now. Oh, I think that young male's going to climb on top of that female. So a question from Wild Earth Mad. And Wild Earth, how important is it for these cubs to play? Wild Earth Mad, it is very, very important. This sort of behavior, this playing, is vital to later on in their lives. You know, it's practiced hunting. You know, if you watch the way that they play, they, especially as they're getting older, they go for the throat. They go for the back legs, they go sort of for the mouth. they go for areas that when they're hunting, it's going to be what they need to do. You'll see they often sort of ankle tap each other. That's what they do to their prey, especially something like an impala when it's running, or zebra when it's running. Then they jump on each other's backs. When they're hunting buffaloes, that's what lions do. They jump on the back, try and drag it down. They go for the throat. That's how they suffocate their prey. So Wild Earth Mad, this play now translates into hunting later, or into fighting later, especially for males. These young male cubs, when they fight, even now, it's practice for later. Nothing out here is random. Wild Earth Mad. There's no random behaviors. There's no random anything, I'm sure the cubs are having fun at the same time. They're probably not aware that it's, future practice. But it's all done for a reason. So we've got a question from Tova. Tova, it is. So Tova wants to know what makes these white lions white, and is it genetics? So Tova, it is genetics, yes. So these two white ones, they have a recessive gene. So both of their parents, so the females, as well as one or both of the Ross males, have this recessive gene rather, and so both parents have the gene, and then it's generally a 25% chance. So if there's 4 cubs in the litter, one of them will get that recessive gene as a dominant gene, and then it will be a white lion. So you can see here they're not albino. They still have patches of color. We can't see right now because they're lying down, but hopefully later if they stand up you'll see behind their ears and on the edge of their tails they've got these darker brown patches of fur, and also the pads of their feet are not pink, they're still like a black brown color. So that tells us that they're not albino. They're not lacking sort of huge amounts of pigment, things like that. It's just a recessive gene. Ali, that is a good question. So Ali wants to know, were there a lot more white lions about 100 years ago? Ali, yes and no. Look, there are a lot of white lions in the world. A lot of them, they're just not wild white lions. So, in lion parks, in captivity, things like that, there's a lot of white lions. They, it's fairly easy for white lions to breed. I can't think of a better word, but something like that. And, out in the wild, though, it's a struggle for them to survive. They're white. You can see how much it stands out. If you look at the entire pride, if Odie would just zoom out quickly, you look at the entire pride like that, and you can see the white one in the middle. He stands out. It's just, so it makes it a lot harder for them to survive. With lions, where there's an 80% death rate before cubs reach the age of 2. You need everything that you can get, and if you're white, it makes it that much harder. So in the wild, these white lions naturally are not very common. But if you have them in an enclosed space, even a very, very, very big place, a place with a fence, it's a bit easier. They can survive. And then they do perfectly fine. They've got no disabilities in terms of physical disabilities or mental disabilities, anything like that. It's purely their color that makes it so hard for them to survive. So 100 years ago, I would say their numbers were probably pretty similar to what they are now, because their natural difficulties haven't changed. It's not like in the last 100 years the grass has gone from a white color to a brown color, making it harder for them to survive. Everything naturally has stayed the same. Okay, so we're going to stay here. I think these lions, the ones in the sun, might get up and move into the shade. For now, they're all sleeping. But we'll sit here. What we're going to do, though, is send you across to Tswalu Kalahari, where they have a candidate hiding behind a bush, apparently.
Just got a very, very brief, there you go, very brief. This is a Cape fox, also called a a silver fox. This is the only true fox that we have in South Africa. Look at that. This is exceptional to see. We've got lots of them here, but they're such tiny little animals now. Unfortunately, okay, there he's gone behind the bushes. Unfortunately, looking at it from this kind of distance, you don't get the true idea of the size of that animal. But sorry, I'm just like warming my hands up here. It's only about, the body is only about that long. So they're small. That's like a foot, maybe marginally longer. And then the tail is about the length of the body. Big bushy tail. They are rodent specialists. So they'll eat other little things sometimes, but they specialize in rodents. And they'll go along those big ears. They can actually locate them underground. They'll dig them out of the burrows. But that was so cool to see. That's a very, 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 very special little animal. Shame, we surprised him. We didn't see him. He was actually lying, curled up in a ball just on the side of one of these bushes over here. And as we came around, he like trotted off and then stopped and looked at us, then like walked and tropped and you know. But anyway, that's just like really cool to see those little things. So yeah, that's so cool to see. There are the honey badgers that we saw last night. There are a number of recorded instances of Cape foxes following along behind honey badgers at a safe distance, obviously, because as the badgers dig, there's always the chance of a Cape fox snaffling one of the mice that go out. So, wow, that was so lucky. So cool. Just shows you never know what you're going to find. Eh? Let's head back down to the Lowveld and see what they've got. And Genre and I, we're going to carry on warming up here a little bit. Yo, it's nippy, eh?
Go to this female. Thanks and welcome back. We've just caught up with a herd of elephants. And there's a few babies in amongst them. And so this female here is just basically telling us, okay, I see you. Don't come any closer. Now she's going to start feeding again, which means we've heeded her commands, and she's now quite happy. Now, elephant breeding herds are always, you can't ever think that a herd of elephants is going to be the same each and every day. It all depends what's gone on. It's been a bit windy. The wind also agitates them. I spoke about that before. So elephant behavior is very important to understand and to read it. And if you come across a herd and they get agitated, just switch off and leave them. Don't push. Just because you've seen that herd close before doesn't mean that they're going to be the same every single day. You don't know what happened at the night. You don't know if there's been a bull causing trouble or if there's been some lions causing trouble, but you can see that she's relaxed again. The tail is wagging and she's feeding. So now I've been given the opportunity to move up a little bit so that we can maybe see the rest of the herd. Okay, so that's a little bit of elephant one-on-one. You always start the car as well, and if they react to the start of the car, then you switch off. You don't instigate anything. They're big animals, you know. And there's a little baby just here. Tell me when you're happy, Davy. Yep. See, so that mama is watching us. See, the baby's drinking. You wouldn't see the baby like that if the herd was completely unrelaxed. They just had a moment of, okay, let's just move into the thicker stuff. They were out in the open when we arrived. And one thing I've learned through experience is that elephants in these areas, in the savannah, especially in South Africa, don't always feel that comfortable in the open. Bulls are generally okay, but breeding herds generally like to, you'll often find them go from one dense vegetative area and they'll march across an open area until they get to the other side and then they calm down again. Okay, so she's coming to say hello again. More elephants behind us, marching through the open area. Sorry, we can't move right now. We are surrounded. Hello, Kayla. You want to know about elephants being born without tusks? It's not necessarily being out of evolution. It's a trait. Just like a red-headed child in a family of dark-haired people. And it comes up from time to time, but the gene generally follows through. So if a mother has no tusks, there's possibility of her daughters or sons even not having tusks. It's just one of those traits. And yes, of course, the tusks are used for gouging in the bark and damaging trees, but not having tusks doesn't mean the elephant can't damage the tree. They can still push it over. And here, specifically in the Kruger, the gene of the tusk is actually quite strong. So we don't see the size of tusks we used to see once upon a time, but generally when you find herds, there's never more than a few that have no tusks. So the general population still got the tools and still able to damage the vegetation. But in saying that, elephants and their landscaping, they are called ecosystem engineers, and they do change the structure. They change the composition between grasses and trees, and they change where the shade falls, and they push the trees over. Okay, they're all relaxing again. You want to move back, Darby, or a couple up ahead? Let's just move up to this next herd. And so they change the structure of the vegetation, which is very important in this ecosystem. Nana, it's not easy to work on tusks for an age. Tusks grow slowly through an animal's life, and once again, it's genetic. Some will have bigger than others. That's just the way it works, I'm afraid. The easiest way, it's not actually that easy. They're being very elusive now. There we go, there's a little youngster. The best way is their dentition in their teeth, but you need to be able to get your hand in the mouth to form a mold of the teeth. But another way is to look at the tail hairs. The tail hairs grow like rings of a tree, and if looking under a microscope, you can actually see the seasonal changes, and you can count the age of an elephant that way. But there are general sort of assumptions and guesses and correlations that people have put together, but it's not very easy to age, especially females. Females, obviously, they get to a certain size and then they don't really grow anymore. Males are constantly growing. Let me move again. Go around the corner here. They seem to all be coming towards that open area. So males are constantly growing, and there's a sort of guesstimates. Hello, Byron. The males get more of a rounded head with age, and the female's head gets this angle on the top. Not easy to tell early on, but the males also get a lot bigger. Another thing, oh, there we go, there's some dust bathing happening. Let's go get this herd over here. They're looking a little bit more relaxed. Just going to come in from the top. When you look at the side of an elephant as well, the female, this sort of shoulder blades here stands up quite tall on her back. It's higher than the head, whereas the male, it kind of fits in quite sort of evenly. The head and the shoulder blades, they're sort of on an even keel, whereas the female's head is down and the shoulder blades are up. That is when they're bigger and more mature. But looking at the side of the female's head, she's got one of those and the male's got one of these. That's a nice, easy way. But it's difficult when they're young. Very difficult when they're young. Sometimes the easiest way to tell is by looking at possibly the male's penis, which obviously is a dead giveaway. And the female has got very noticeable mammary glands between her front legs, which this young boy does not have. See, if that was a girl, she would, at that size, would already have had a calf, maybe even two, and you would see mammary glands there. Boys are also quite cheeky. They like to come and say hello, like this one. Hello, Dad. That's a good question. See, now you can clearly tell that's a boy, can't you? I don't know how I can tell so easily. See, now this female, here you can see it's a female because of the mammary glands. And she's always got a calf very close by. Dad wants to know about the knees. Well, the knees of the elephants at the front or the back. Now, and I don't really know how to explain that. You know, essentially the elephants are walking on their toes. So what do you see at the front of an elephant's foot when it's bends is actually the wrist or even the hand joint. And then that is the knee on the elephant's elbow. But then the back leg is slightly different because it actually bends the other way. So, yeah, it is knees and elbows. It is all a very interesting discussion. But it's wonderful to be in amongst a herd like this. Very relaxed. Now, there's Mum busy feeding on a sickle bush, which are very nutritious, very tasty, but also very dangerous to her vehicle tires. And the baby is right next to her and learning. Okay, can I eat that, Mum? Yes, my darling, you can eat that. And it will pick it up by smell, and it will learn that smell through its life. See, this is a mum coming right up to us. She's doing it. She's closing the gap. And there's another youngster coming running through the bushes. Hello, little one. Very good. Okay, well, it sounds like Sean has got something very cute to be seen, so let's quickly go over to him.
So we have been watching this young female cub that you can see there. She's there, other side of that little bush, and she has pretty much gone to every single lion in the pride to try and get them to play with her. And no one is playing with her. I think now she's playing with that stick. And she's tried some of the females, she's tried the other cubs. The only one she hasn't tried, I think, is her mom and her brother. And she's gone around and she's really trying to play. So you see that now. A number of them lift up their heads like that. So there's a flock of birds to our left. I think they're quilliers. I can't see them. I can just hear them flying. And every time the whole flock flies up in the air, all the lions lift up their heads, I guess, and they look and they listen. Most likely to see what has perhaps disturbed those birds. You know, Rowan was telling me that as he was walking here following them, they were also tracks of a herd of buffalo. So we think these lions were following the herd of buffalo. So maybe they think there's one or two buffaloes on their way back, or stragglers, something like that, that they might try and catch. But they always just want to be alert because they're lying in the open. You can see all of them sort of lying in the sun. So, you know, they're still quite alert. They don't want anything to come and disturb them. So if anything disturbs the bird, it's like an early warning, and they can just have a quick look, see it's nothing too threatening, and then fall back to sleep. But what I was telling you about the little cubs there, so you can see that is the young male that's in the screen there. Is that we've actually been quite surprised with how gently the other youngsters play with the two cubs. You know, they're not aggressive. They sort of, you know, they do bite them, but softly, you know, like a little nibble. And they put a paw on them, but they don't swat them. They just sort of place the paw on the cub. So they're very, very gentle. And you're thinking it's most likely because if they play rough, the cubs are going to sort of moan or squeak quite loudly, and then the mother is going to get up and sort of end the playtime. So it's like they've learned if we play gently, it's all okay. Oh, look at this one female here on the right, the old female. So she's very, very old. You can see, look at her face. It just looks a bit sort of worn. Her nose is very, very black. Okay, what we're going to do though, as you can see she's sleeping, we're going to send you back towards the elephants that Steve has.
Welcome back. I'm just going to keep quiet and let you enjoy. See how quickly they're moving from the thicket to the next thicket. They're split up in two very particular groups. One was the family, and well, actually 3 groups, 2 families and then boys in the middle. Just before he came to us, the one female chased 2 teenagers and said, "Get away from my children." At the way they're moving, they're going to go straight to Galago Pan, or to a pan. You can actually, when you're tracking elephants and you've got them moving like this in a straight line quickly, there's an intention there. Intention is not to feed right now. Intention is to drink. So see if we can get across and around onto Galago. And if they do drink, if it's not Galago, it's going to be Voitela. So yeah, it's going to be, let's see, where are we here? Now, this is Zoe's Junction. They're going straight to Galago. Either Galago or they're going to go north into Tambuti Dam. Just stop there. There, they start slowing down as they get into the thickets. But their intention is quite clear. And by the direction, yes, it does look like Galago. So as we watch them disappearing, let's make a move. There's a couple boys still behaving badly up ahead. Just teenage boys, just trying to be too cool, you know. They want to drink, of course. They don't necessarily want to toe the line when it comes to, oh, making noises. Hello Shatika, you want to know the difference between a tusker and a regular elephant bull? Well, if we found you a regular elephant bull, I'd show you, but the tuskers, let me just go, they're going straight to the pan. The tuskers, oh, they're going to cross us right here, Darby, right in front of the road. Now, tuskers is the term referred to big tuskers. So elephant bulls that have got tusks that are just mammoth in proportion, going all the way down to the ground. And normal regular bulls have got much smaller tusks. When you meet a tusker, you can't mistake it. They are enormous. Not just the body of the animal, the bull is huge. You never find females referred to as big tuskers. I've never heard of a female referred to as big tusker. Obviously the tusks serve 2 purposes, everybody. One is for accessing nutrients from bark, and the second is for fighting. So elephant bulls fight for the right to mate, and females don't necessarily fight with each other, but they do discipline naughty boys, and they will fight off lions. And you don't really need big tusks to squash a lion. You just need bulk, which is what elephants have. So you'll see these females, they've only got a couple of feet of tusks on them. Elephant bull with big tusks, they are mammoth in proportion. You're talking 100 to 150 pounds a tusk. There's a wonderful elephant museum. It's either at Letaba or Olifant, so I can't remember. I've been to it in the Kruger National Park, where you can see they've got a few of the big tuskers that died of old age. And they've managed to preserve them, obviously. They've got the entire skeleton there with the tusks. And you can't actually believe how big these things are. They're incredible. Incredible. And unfortunately, due to the ivory trade that dominated the world for a very, very long time, the really, really big tuskers, those genetics are and have been lost. Ellie girl, the tusk is essentially a root, like your tooth. So if you picture how big your tooth is, have you ever seen how deep into your mouth your tooth goes? Well, the elephant tusk is the same. It goes in, let's try to show you the side of the face now of one of these elephants. And you'll see that bulge on the side is where the root, they're just going to come through the bushes over here. If we just give them a moment. How's that? A whole herd has just disappeared behind this bush. Okay, here they come. Now, if we have a look at the side of the face, where the elephant's face is, you'll see the bulge on the side where the skin is attached. That entire bulge to below the eye is where the tusk is rooted in. Obviously, she's a tuskless female, isn't she? One on the right there might work. There we go. So that bulge on the side that comes up sort of parallel with the mouth, that goes in there. So 6 inches, 12 inches, depending on the size of the animal. And that is where it's actually growing from. Like your tooth, it's pushing from underneath. But the elephant's tusks are growing throughout their life. Just a little snack before they go to the water. You see how much more slow moving they are once they're surrounded by vegetation. Okay, well, we're going to follow this herd of elephants. They're going to go and drink, I'm almost certain. Meantime, we send you back over to Tswalu Kalahari with some slow-moving antelope.
This is a very, very, very special sighting. It's a common antelope on Tswalu. It's called an eland. It's our largest antelope that we have. But just this glorious light going up that dune face, it's just beautiful. And I see there's some oryx, or some gemsbok as we call them, straight below the eland, moving in towards the eland as well. And you'll get a really good idea of the size if those gemsbok go a little bit closer, of just how big those eland actually are. And there, you've got large bulls that are getting up to 800 kilograms in some cases. And these are immense animals. And you'll see they got their heads down. They're doing a lot of feeding there. And they are what we call mixed feeders. So they will actually feed on grass. They will feed on leaves of bushes and trees as well. They've got quite a nice varied diet. And that's obviously a really good adaptation if you're trying to survive in these harsh environments, not to just be a feeder on one specific sort of plant. You can see the gemsbok now in the frame there. Very important food source for lions on Tswalu, eland. Our lions do tend to go for a lot of them, especially on these big prides. I mean, we didn't see the kill properly the other day, but when we were sitting with that lion pride, those of you who were with us, there were the cubs, and that was apparently an eland that the lions had caught. This will be nice if they actually just crest that dune while we're watching them, but they're so relaxed. Doesn't look like they're going to be going anywhere in a rush soon. But what a magical setting, eh? And they tend to be very, very shy antelope. In the sand culture, or the Bushman culture as it's also known, eland played an extremely important role, and it features very, very prominently in rock art sites throughout South Africa, or throughout Southern Africa, in fact. Eland is one of the recurring animal themes in Southern African rock art, whether it's paintings or petroglyphs. We have petroglyphs on Tswalu, so rock engravings, we call them petroglyphs. And they were very, very important in terms of food for the first peoples of these areas. And you can just imagine, if you were able to somehow catch an eland, whether it's using poisoned bows and arrows, poisoned arrows, not the bows, or any other means. I mean, that would be a huge windfall. If you're a group of people living in these environments, you are able to get an eland. I mean, that's a huge amount of meat on an animal like that. But they're just beautiful, beautiful, beautiful animals. And I can't see from this distance, so let me grab my bins here quickly. But you should be able to see a dewlap. It's a big flap of skin on the neck, and the ones cresting the dune on the right with a gemsbuck. So the one on the far right with a gemsbuck is a cow. Long, thin horns. But even as a cow, you can see how big she is compared to those two gemsbuck. And then the bull is the one in the middle. Chandra, I don't know if you can see that. Sorry, Sol, what was the question there? If you could please repeat that.
You sat beside an eland, would it come up to your shoulder?
Oh, okay. If you sat beside an eland. Oh, okay, very good question. Sol just asked if you had to stand next to an eland, that eland would be head and shoulders above you. Well, certainly, I'm kind of very average in height. I think I'm 1.74, something like that. I don't know. But yeah, that would be head and shoulders above me. So those are really, really large antelope. And I know that's a good point you raise. It's always difficult to get an idea of the size of an animal at these kind of distances and that. I mean, for all we know, that thing could be the height of our knee. But they're very, very, very big antelope. And interestingly, Chandra, I don't know if you can see, you got that one that's in the middle now. You see how he's actually eating off the leaves of the trees. Every now and again, you see that? He puts his head up, he's actually feeding on the leaves of the trees. Whereas when they were moving up along the face of the dune, they were actually all feeding with their heads down. So that's just a really nice example there of how they're not restricted to feeding in one. You know, they can be feeding on grasses or even low-growing forbs, as well as reaching up very, very high to get forage as well. And of course, the challenge with ruminants is being able to, and that's why the whole ruminant stomach system works so well, is, you know, they generally feeding on relatively low quality forage, unless you're a specialist feeder and you're only going for these tiny little, very, very fresh leaves and shoots with low cellulose content. But otherwise, you're kind of like getting a lot of bulk in, and that's why that the strategy of the ruminant works so well. You've got to be eating a lot, but your stomach obviously takes time. The gut flora takes time to digest that. So you need a mechanism of saying, well, okay, I've got to eat a lot to get enough energy for these little guys need to digest it. So how do I do that? And that's where the rumen comes in. So you actually ruminate the food, you chew it further, and you know that enables that process just to be extended. And that's really summarizing it. But it's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful strategy. And not all ruminants do that. I mean, you get your very small little antelope, and those are specialist feeders. And they will nibble, they will be searching out the best new growth shoots with as low cellulose content as possible, super high energy. Because obviously their stomachs are a lot smaller than these big guys, and that really that's another strategy that the smaller antelope can use as well. So you get these like bulk feeders, you get mixed feeders, and then you get these very specialist little feeders. And also with carnivores, it's the same. Okay, they're not ruminants, but with carnivores as well. I mean, you get ones that'll go for pretty much whatever passes, but then you get these specialist hunters. We've got a crazy little animal, and that's my nemesis at Tswalu. It's on my bucket list anyway. I've never seen one. I've only seen photographs. It's called a snake weasel. A snake weasel. It's a tiny little mammal. It's about a little bit thicker than your thumb, or about the thickness of your thumb. It's probably 30 centimeters in length. Black and white, like a skunk or polecat, but it lives its almost entire life underground. And that little creature actually hunts mammals underground, like moles, mole rats, those kind of things. But I've never seen one, and there's very, very few people that ever have seen them, even though they're quite common. Inio, if I understood your question correctly there, is the environment a factor in horn development? If I heard that correctly. Yes and no. The quality of the forage can determine horns are composed of keratin. But what you can get in the environment is, depending on the quality of the forage available, there's a lot of debate as to the speed that horns can grow at. And I mean, for various reasons, in farming, with livestock and that, there's a lot of debate. Well, if you feed animals X, can the horns grow faster? So there's a bit of debate there. Where it becomes really interesting is if you look at the composition of things like tusks on elephants. There are very, very good examples of elephant populations where the tusks can be very brittle, as opposed to other elephant populations where the tusks are less so. And that is directly related to the minerals and nutrients that they're ingesting, and how that gets transferred into the actual, the bone formation, the tusk formation, and it can be on horn formation of antelope as well. So yeah, absolutely, the environment can play a role. There could be deficiencies in the vegetation, and in other areas they're getting everything that they need for correct horn growth. Occasionally we see it on Tswalu, and I'm not seeing any of the plant growing around here, exactly where we're standing here. But if I see one, I'll show you. It's called a crotalaria. It's a I can't even think of the common name. Crotalaria, a June bush. It's called a June bush. That's it. And that is implicated in a disease called stiff sickness. And what that does is the animals can feed on it, but it's got a lot of chemicals in it. And what those chemicals do, it can actually create a situation of stiffness in the legs, in the leg joints. And because of that stiffness, and then the animals don't walk with a normal gait, and then the hooves don't wear down as they would normally, and then you can get these elongated hooves. You see that occasionally. It's not that common, but you get it out. But you normally find animals that the moment those hooves start getting a little bit longer, the lions catch them. But so relating to your question, and that's why I think that question was very, very good, is that your vegetation, or whatever a species is ingesting, whether it's a predator or a herbivore, whatever they're eating can play a really, really big role in development, body growth, that kind of stuff. And we see that in people as well. But yeah, that's just one example in terms of things on Tswalu. Yeah, so that's interesting. Good question. And yeah, we're going to carry on this side. And I think head back over to the Lowveld. Yeah, and see what they've got. I think it's going to be a little bit warm. Jean-Charles laughing. We'll see you just now.
Okay, some deep conversations you guys are having over there at Tswalu. Here, we are watching lions sleep. There's been a couple of rollovers. Some of them have flipped over. One even actually stood up. But you can see there, if you look at the screen now, the one with the leg way up in the air, that is the young male. So that is the injured one. If you actually zoom in on the bottom leg, you can see just on the right hand side there, you can actually see a bit of that injury. So there it is there. That black little dot is obviously the inside of the wound. You can see it's still quite swollen around that area. Most likely it could just be a bone that's out of place or something like that. But as I said, we did see him walk, and he is putting pressure on it, and I don't think it will ever heal completely. He's not going to be able to, be 100% like he was before. But he is putting pressure on it. So it's all good signs. It's all very, very good signs. He might roll over again. So you can see now the sun is getting very warm. I have taken all of my jackets, my jerseys, everything off. Because it's getting very hot in the sun. And I think if you give it another sort of 10-15 minutes, very likely that all of these ones in the sun will get up and move off to the shade. As I said, one of the females has already done it, and the rest will shortly. There's a bit of a breeze though, You can see the grass moving little bits, and that breeze is very, very cool. Very cool. It's surprising how most of the ones in the sun are the adults. Okay, so we've got a question from, I believe the name was Trover or Clover. Wanted to know, how long does it take for a cub to grow to full size? So, you know, full size, a male lion will reach their sort of physical peak at about 7 years old. Between sort of 6 and 7 years old, they'll hit their sort of physical peak. So, you know, the oldest cubs here, that old white male, or the oldest white male here, he's got about another 5 years, roughly, 5 and a bit years until he gets to his physical peak. This young injured male, he's got maybe another 3 years to get to his physical peak. Females are pretty much the same. You know, they are physically at their biggest, about 7, maybe 8, and then, but they are ready to mate from a much, much younger age. I mean, this female here with the 2 young cubs, she's same age as that male, so she's roughly 4 years old, just under 4, I think, and she's mating already. You know, 3-month gestation. Those cubs are now 2 months old already, so that's 5 months. So 5 months ago she was mating, so almost half a year. So in terms of size, physicality, around 7. In terms of breeding age, breeding adulthood, is probably between sort of 3.5, 4 years old. You know, but like you were saying at Tswalu, you know, depending on the nutritional value of the vegetation and, you know, the food sources in the area, you know, some of these lions will be very, very big at a younger age. Like this young injured male, he's very big for his age. He's got a massive head, he's got quite a big mane as well, big shoulders, big upper body. And that's because here at Ambiyandangala, this pride is very good at hunting sort of wildebeest, zebra, buffalo. These are all big food sources. So their young, their cubs, that sort of thing, have access to a lot of food at a young age, so they can grow physically very, very nicely. There's also fantastic genes. You look at these females, even lying down, they are intimidating. They are big, they are bulky animals, they got big heads, they got big shoulders. So the genes that these cubs are taking over are very, very good. They got fantastic genes. The Ross males, not the biggest lions. The Ross males are not the biggest lions. Oh, look at that young male there with his head up. I mean, look at that. Just look at the width of his head. The size of his nose. Look at his chest across the front there. His forehead. He's a big, big male. A big guy. So when he gets to 7, he might be a lot bigger than the average lion that's 7 years old. It's just their access to food. You know, you go to somewhere like Namibia, and they got those desert lions. They're probably not as big as these lions. Well, look, Casey's going to stand up now. So let's see. So back left leg, that's the injury. Look how tall he is. You stand next to his head. So you see, still got a limp, but he's putting pressure on it. He's walking on it. He's not avoiding it completely. What he's doing, he's going to some shade. He got very, very hot there in the sun. He lie down right there. Oh, I think he squashed the young female cub. Yeah, there. He just sat on top of her. Oh, shame. He squashed her. But you saw that, you know, much, much more pressure than it was, what, like 2 weeks ago when we saw him, or a week and a half ago when we saw him. So that poor cub just got squashed. What I was saying is those lions, yeah, in the deserts in Namibia, you know, they have a much harder time catching food. Obviously, the desert, it's open. You're going to hunt a hemspook, but there's no cover. So they're eating a lot less, meaning that they might just be a little bit smaller in general size. So our lions here are extremely lucky. Food is plenty here. So they can grow nice and big, which is good, because lions have a very hard life. Very tough life being a lion. Everything's scared of you, everything wants to hurt you, especially when you're young. There's a young male fast asleep. You see how close he is to that other youngster. They're almost head to head. The youngest cub and that one there. It's amazing how quickly they will assimilate into the pride. You know, the mother does a bit of growling, sets the boundaries, and then it's all good. The interesting part, the next sort of step in this interaction. That's an interesting question from Anushka. Now, Anushka would like to know what part of a carcass, what part of a kill will lions not eat? So, Anushka, the stomach contents, so the whole sort of stomach, intestines, that sort of thing, the lions, they don't eat. Because now, if we think about it, lions are obviously carnivores, they're meat eaters, and a lot of their prey are vegetarians. They hunt buffalo, zebra, giraffe, impala, kudu, that sort of thing, all vegetarian. So their stomachs are full of grass. The lions don't want to eat that. So they will start sort of ripping up the carcass, opening it up, and they will take out the stomach. And they won't touch it. They'll just move it out, and sometimes they'll bury it, cover it with grass, something like that. But they won't eat it because they don't want to eat that grass. Also, intestines, very similar. They don't eat that. They take it out, and they sort of bury it. You know, something like the vultures, jackal, hyena maybe, they will come back and eat the stomach lining. They will eat the stomach lining. They will possibly eat the intestines, especially if that's all that's left. Vultures will happily go for that. But the lions will leave that alone. You know, otherwise, all of the meat, lions will go for. Things like the liver, I've seen lions eat before. It also depends on the size of the carcass. You know, you got 16 lions here. They catch one impala. They're going to eat everything pretty much besides the stomach and the intestines. But then you catch something like a buffalo or a giraffe. Plenty food, even for 16 lions, Anushka. So they can be quite picky with what they eat. You know, if they don't like the liver or they don't like the lung, that's fine. There's plenty of meat for them, Anushka, to eat. So I've seen quite an actual variety in what they're eating. I once saw one of the younger lions, when these youngsters were very small, Anushka, they ate the tongue of a zebra. That was actually quite disturbing, but they ate the tongue of a zebra, where now, when they catch something like a buffalo, giraffe, I haven't seen them do that. So I think it does change. It depends on the age of the lion. Maybe they're just trying out new foods. But you know, generally, everything has its place. The lions can't crack through, so they're not going to eat the brain, the eyes, the tongue, where vultures will go for the eyes. Hyenas can crack through there, so they can go for the tongue, and if it's something small, they can maybe crack through, get to the eye socket, something like that. They are looking very lazy. We'll spend probably another sort of 15-20 minutes here. I want to see if they get up, if they move into the shade, something like that. So while we wait and watch them sleep, we're going to send you across to Steve at Juma, who's waiting for the elephants to arrive at a waterhole.
Thank you, Sean. I hope your lions get up to something. We've been sitting here at the water waiting for breeding herd of elephants to emerge, and here they come just on cue. Now, everybody, bear in mind, we'd love your support, so please, if you have the time and the inclination, go to the link below so that we can continue to send you wonderful images from the African wilderness. Now, I'm just going to keep quiet for a moment so you can hear how this all plays out.
Sorry, guys. We've just lost Steve briefly. Ooh, but we see a steenbok is off in the distance. So there's a lot of antelope. I'm out here on quarantine at the moment. I'm actually heading down to the hyena den. There's lots of antelope that are feeling a bit nervous. Or so it seems. Let's have a look at these impala. But not terribly nervous. So I've been up on Buffelshoek Cutline and been looking around, following a few tracks. But center left, your other left. There we go. And now they're on the right of your screen. Right? Ta-da! There we go. So I've been following some tracks and being derailed, looking for animals, but didn't manage to find any. But then 4 hyenas crossed into Djuma after the wild dog kill that was in Buffelshoek that they had been at. In fact, they had stolen some of that kill from those wild dogs. Unfortunately, it was quite far from the boundary. So then I tried following up, seeing if I could find them, and I couldn't. So now I'm heading straight down to the den and see if any bloodied individuals arrive. Then we'll know who is there. But I have a feeling that the antelope here are a little nervous, but not really. Some still have their heads down, some feeding, all good. I think it's because these hyenas had actually run through quarantine. The wind has picked up just a little bit too, which also added to their insecurity at this time. That light is just gorgeous. So we'll head down to the den for the last 45 minutes of show and hope that there's some action. Oh, isn't that lovely? That light is just spectacular. Really nice. So, I see lots of hyena tracks up and down. I'm glad because there's been fewer tracks these last couple days. And as irritating as hyena tracks can be, because at first you may think, if you're looking from afar, that you're following a leopard track, then when you actually stop to have a look, oh, it's actually just hyenas walking on top of the leopard, with the leopard, all of that. So it can be confusing, but I do miss when I see them. Oh, some young boys hanging out. Cool. Well, I'm gonna head down and hopefully find some of our Djuma clan cubs popping their heads out of their dens, but I think that a little lion has popped its head up too.
So we've got some activity. You guys came at just the right time. You can see there, that is the young male, and he's busy. Looks like he's actually biting the ear of one of the older youngsters. He started off by grooming. He was licking at the beginning, and now he seems to be biting. Maybe there's a tick there or something that he was trying to groom and then just bite off. Or maybe no, I think he was just biting. The other one tolerated it for quite a while, just pulling on his ear hair. You can see he's awake now, so he literally just woke up. And now he's licking the other one's face. So even this behavior, we're discussing sort of behavior and playing and fighting. I can't remember who asked the question. Someone asked the question about how important it is for, the play, the behavior. And even something like this, this behavior of the younger one grooming the older one, it's very, very important. Lions, very social animals, the whole pride mentality, they hunt together. So to have good social bonds is very important. And those social bonds are sort of formed, they're reaffirmed through grooming, through bumping heads, through play, through greetings. And it starts off when this cub is 2 months old like this, and he just forms those connections even now. And you'll see that's why earlier when the young female was going around to every lion trying to get them to play, even if they don't, just by going to them, it's still very beneficial for her, it's beneficial for the pride. I mean, especially for her, seeing as she's going to be in the pride forever. It's like he's shifting now to see if he can play with another one. Right, going back to his grooming, let's see if he starts biting. So, Ready Ruby, a pride like this. So here we said there's 16 lions off in front of us right now. So Ready Ruby, just hold on, look how cute that is with the young cub just sleeping on the other one. Oh, that is adorable. He just like found himself a comfortable pillow and now he's going to pass out. But Ready Ruby, so like this pride will hunt probably every 3 days. They will hunt. But lions, their success rate is very, very low. Ready Ruby, so they might start hunting, let's say they hunt tonight, being Thursday. They might start tonight and only catch something on Friday or Saturday. Let's say they eat on Saturday, like something like a wildebeest, a zebra, a buffalo. Then they will hunt again probably Monday, probably Tuesday night. You know, but if they hunt and they catch an impala, then they'll hunt again the next night. Because Ready Ruby, you can imagine impala divided by 16, it's not very much at all. So it depends what they catch, but on average, Ready Ruby, 3 nights. It would be about every 3 nights. But you can see now, guys, it's just getting hotter and hotter. These lions are going to get more and more lazy. Even that young one's getting more and more comfortable. Might even just use that lion as a whole pillow. So we're going to leave them, let them rest, come back this afternoon. While we do that, we'll send you over to Steve, who's managed to find those elephants.
Thanks, Sean, and we're terribly sorry you lost us earlier, everybody. I'm not sure how far into our elephant segment you got, but we've had plus minus 25 elephants come through and drink. A breeding herd followed by a group of young bulls. And now slowly the breeding herd is going to move off. There's at least one other breeding herd on their way here. When we were with them before, there was two groups, definitely 2 groups. The other group has not emerged, so they might have decided on a different direction, or a different water source. But when you track elephants, as we were following them before, you'll notice when they move in a straight line at quite a bit of speed, they're generally going somewhere and it's water. And after they've drunk, tracking them, they'll slowly meander away from the bush, from the water as they feed. So it won't ever be a straight line away from water. It'll now be a meander before they turn around and come straight back or go to another water point. That's generally the way for it. So you can actually tell their behavior by those movements. When you find elephants moving from one bush to another, you'll find dung and tracks and feeding. And then when they start moving straight, you can almost guarantee that you just do a big leapfrog around and you'll either find them at the water or catch up with them on the way there. Very good. Well, let's see if we can try get you another view of this herd. We're just outside Gallagher Lodge. Wonderful little viewing deck for the guests to come and sit and watch behavior like that. Let's have a look at these boys, actually. The boys are always my favorite. Little baby elephants and boy elephants are my favorite because they're always doing something. Hello, Ashira, 5 years old. Do you want to know why elephants have such big ears? Well, the ears are actually an air conditioning system for them. They lose heat through the ears. So if an elephant is cold, they plaster their ears to their head. And when they're hot, they flap their ears quite vigorously to cool themselves down. On the bottom or inside of the ear, there's a very thin membrane of skin, and elephants can pump an enormous amount of blood from their body into the ears to help them cool down. So that's a very important adaptation for living in these hot, warm climates. They also use a lot of mud on the body to help cool them down. They will swim as well. They always seem to have a lot of fun when they're swimming. So this little group of boys will follow that breeding herd around. They won't get too close and they'll sort of hang out with them, but they'll always be on the outskirts, still learning the routes and the directions where mum and where the family's going, but they're not really tolerated inside the herd because they show sexual interest in the females, and the mum says, nope, to the side with you boys, and they will follow the breeding herds until they meet up with a big bull and then follow him around. So thanks to those people who've come back to me with some information about a number of female tuskers recognized in the Kruger and in Kenya, and there's 5 in the Kruger. Quite incredible to see, actually. The female's tusks, although they're very long, they're nowhere near as broad or thick as that of some of the big male tuskers that we see. Just had a few pictures coming through there to me. Let's go have another look at this mama. So as I said, once they've drunk, they will slowly move away, even finding a spot in the shade somewhere for a little bit of a rest. But for the most part, they are pretty mobile all day long. They never go through bouts of extreme slumber like the lions that Nikki's with. Quite a relaxed elephant there. The tail wagging on an elephant is a sure sign that they are relaxed. Also feeding. So I think I got the end of a question there by River is, why don't these animals get sunburnt? Is that right? Yep. They've evolved out here. Their skin is adapted to it. Obviously many of the animals will cover themselves in mud. It's all a sort of a means of your adaptation to where you are in the world. Historically, many of the cultures we have around the world that live in the central parts of the world have got quite dark skin. And I know my descendants came from the northern hemisphere in the UK, and pale skin. So adaptations to different climates, different temperatures, and not to the sun. So we have to apply sun cream, well I do anyway, to keep myself from burning. The different adaptations to the sun, you'll see people from India, quite dark complexion, Central Africa, dark complexion, and that's all an adaptation for where you live and where you've evolved. Hello, hello, Kingfisher. He's shouting, I can't see him, it's very bright. Let's move back. Oh, we've got 2 bulls have come back to drink. Now the politics of the ladies is gone. Those bulls have decided they would like to come and drink. They were obviously told not to by the females. And now that they're not looking, let's just reverse in here. They just wanted to drink peacefully. Too cool to hang out with all the kids. And many of the animals have got fur, so it's very difficult to suntan if you're covered in fur. Hippopotamuses give off a substance that helps them with sunburn. It also helps them to heal wounds on their skin. They get so many injuries on the skin from being attacked by other hippos, lion attacks, thorns. They have to give off their own natural sun cream, which is also an antiseptic. It helps to keep them protected. Ready, Ruby. These days, elephants generally die of old age. Obviously, there are incidences of bulls, killing bulls. There are incidences of poaching, of course, across the African continent. Unfortunately, still the case. Bulls will kill each other. We had, I think it was over a year and a half ago. Do you remember, Davy? That bull was killed on the property. There was a bull that succumbed to quite a bad injury from another bull, and he died on the property. And females, they don't, well, old elephants, it's not necessarily old age that kills them. Elephants get a total of 6 sets of molars in their life, and they're constantly pushing through. I mentioned earlier you can age elephants by their teeth. And so elephants get 6 sets of molars, and by the age they're about 40, 45, that last set of molars come through. And obviously those then get worn down and broken down and eventually smooth, to the point where the elephant's chewing becomes almost obsolete. So they're basically ingesting food, goes into the belly. There's no breakdown by the teeth to sort of just open the particles up slightly. And when they defecate, you look in their dung and you'll find entire branches, entire leaves. It almost looks like someone's raked up your garden refuse and put it on the floor. That's what it looks like. And so essentially the elephant then gets very low nutrients and very low sort of sustainability from a keeping itself going energy point of view, and they starve to death. It's a very sad story, to be honest, but that is a natural occurrence. Obviously, calf mortality is something that would normally have been a massive thing for elephants. In the Kruger, there's a lot of water, and so elephant calf mortality is very low. Whereas in other places when elephants might have had to move vast distances for water and in search of food, we would have had an increased mortality when they're younger, which means an overall decreased survival rate. And it's one of those reasons why many people talk about elephant graveyards. It's not really that elephants go somewhere to die. They do definitely visit fallen comrades and fallen friends. They will visit them for years, which is quite an amazing thing to witness. But elephants that get very old end up not being able to chew their food, so they move to areas of very soft sort of riverine vegetation like reeds and sedges, papyrus, sort of stuff like that, which is easier to ingest and easier to give them some form of nutrients. And those normally occur along major river sources, and then the elephant often dies along that river source. And in times of big flood, all those bones, including logs and everything else that's abandoned on the banks, get washed around corners and bends and accumulated. And early settlers came across these and thought, oh, it's an elephant graveyard, but it's not actually the case. Okay, very good. Well, we're going to quickly send you over to Trish, who I believe has got a mongoose.
we have some mongoose. We're here in the block where the hyena den is, and there is no one there at the moment. But these mongoose are out and about, so I'm hoping they pretty much use the same way in and out of the den, the same 2-track that I used to drive in, into the center of the block and then a separate road to the den. So they usually use that path, and I'm hoping if I just stick around, I'll be able to see what they do. In the meantime, we are entertained by these gorgeous, very, very busy dwarf mongoose. Everyone's out and about sunning themselves. Oh, wind's really picking up. BK, there's some nice, well, large ones, shall we say, there on the side of the mount. Oh, you're standing up like a meerkat, are you? That was pretty cool. That was very cool. Guess that's what happens when dwarf mongoose start to realize that they have to compete with the meerkats at Tswalu now. Yes, you. Gosh, I just love them. They're so curious. And they have this high energy and excitement that I just love so much. Just at the base there's some more. Hello, you guys. So many just poured out like a little clown car. Typical morning, sunning themselves. The sun is actually really nice. It's going to be a warm day today, so it's already starting to warm up quite a bit. But the wind is problematic, not just for the animals, as I've explained about the way that sound uses the particles in the air in order to travel. When the air is being swooshed around by the wind, it's difficult for them to hear. But also for us to find animals can be difficult. So whenever it's windy, we think, oh gosh. Hopefully we'll find more this afternoon. Very nice. So I'm going to stick around here and wait for any sign of the hyenas, but I'll send you over to a big ellie. It's having the time of its life with some mud.
Welcome back, everyone. We've been disappearing quite a bit. We've been trying to find some cheetahs, and also, if you remember, when we last us, we with a white rhino bull, but he actually moved quite away from us, and he moved into the bush. So we finally found the 2 elephant bulls around here. As you can see, it's one of these colonized an old bull with a big tusk, and yeah, they're just enjoying themselves into the water hole here. Muddy paddle, as you can see here, it's nice and bright sunshine, which is lovely for us. So, okay, I will do it. Okay, so as you can see, that's what they to the right. Okay, how's it now? How everyone doing there? Perfect on the screen. Okay, look at this lovely splashing on that young bull over there. So, which is beautiful to have them around. As you can see, sun shining direct to them, which is make them a bit warm. They prefer to come down not for to drink, just to splash, to cooling down themselves. Also, to be able to disturb these flies and on them, so they can be able to move around and scratch themselves into the trees. That's what they normally do after the mud paddle like this. If you take a look at the big one over there on the right there, he's busy scratching on himself behind his ears, because you'll find a lot of ticks stuck into this very thin layer of the ears, and they kind of itchy. When he's splashing those mud, they can't reach actually behind his ears. That's why he's even using his trunk, trying to scratch himself out like that. Which is amazing. And also, if you look at his feet, yeah, he's recovering quite well. That bull, he's been very bad. He had a bad time like a couple months ago, and he had quite a big wound on his back left legs, but actually he seems to be doing so much better the last time I saw him. I was dying to see him, what he's like over these couple months ago. So he's almost back to his normal size, but as you can see, he's quite a big boy. So this is one of the oldest bulls we have in the reserve. So it's so nice to see him. He's still doing it. There's no more. He's with a couple of other bulls around this area. Like yesterday, we have quite a brief video of them. There were like 5 of them all together. He's just resting his trunk on top of his tusk. Well, he is scratching himself again. Does every now and again it does scratch behind his ears, because even if he moved to the trees, rubbing there, that doesn't really reach quite easily there, because it's very soft part. Start getting nice and warm, even to us. Feel like going to swim on this mud puddle, to cooling down a little bit. Wow, look at that. Awesome. I wish I could. I wish I could do it. So I need someone to join me. No. Wow. That.
If it were a shark infestation, I'd say yes.
Wow. If you look at that, quite nice reeds here, but they don't really care about feeding or anything, just enjoying themselves to splash themselves on that with that mud. Yeah. Full of mud. As you can see, he's using his front foot to scratch himself, because they carry a lot of ticks on this skin. Yeah, this is a very good sighting with the especially like this time in the morning, and it looks like everyone likes to come across into the water to cooling down themselves. So, wow, well, what do we do, guys? We'll send you straight to Steve with Buffalo in a same kind of situation by the watering hole. So enjoy the guys.
Have been at the water. They're slowly making their way out, these 3, what we call Dugger boys. For those of you who are new to the show might wonder, where does the word Dugger come from? And Dugger is the Shangaan word for mud, but it's also utilized in Fanagalo, which is sort of the language that was mixed at the mines, where everybody talks in their own sort of dialect, and it came together as a language. And Dugger is also another word for cement, Madaga. And so the Dugger boys are called Dugger boys because they love to sit in the mud. They love to cover themselves in mud. First of all, it helps to keep the ticks at bay. You can see the guy on the left is covered in oxpeckers. Helps to drown and suffocate the ticks, which they then go to a rubbing post and rub off. And in the summer months, it keeps them cool as well as keeps away the biting flies, which in summer can be rather overwhelming. Now, these old bulls normally have moved away from the herd because of the pressures in the herd. There's a lot of sort of pushing and shoving between other males for the right to mate, and eventually guys just get so over it they retire. And there, the poor fellow on the right has got a stumpy of a tail that's most likely been eaten off by a lion. Still alive though, so I suppose sacrificing your tail for your life is not such a bad thing. The buffaloes we had last week with the Nkuhuma pride. One bull came to help the other bull that the lions had jumped on. He was making an enormous amount of noise, and the bull that came to help ended up getting eaten. Pretty sad, to be honest. Don't know if there should be a life lesson in there for everybody. I still think it's important to help each other regardless of the risks. But in that case, that buffalo died with the volition of helping his friend, and that's a life lesson. The volition was there to help. Unfortunately, it didn't work out for him too well. Okay, well, Trishala's got some more mongoose. Let's quickly go back over to her.
I think that's great advice. I think these mongoose, I'm going to say they feel the same way. Although they're giving me beady eyes as if maybe they don't. None of the hyenas have come past just yet, which makes me wonder, maybe there is something else of interest that has caught them, like perhaps another kill of some sort. But as I was driving through, I still didn't see any interesting tracks. I love how they all pop their heads up to look at us, like they're waiting for their family members to arrive from somewhere. Are they here? Did they come? Are they here yet? Is that them? Just gorgeous. The sun shining in the eyes of the one on the left was a little unnerving at one point. They can give you a proper stare down, these guys. As cute and adorable as they are, they can really stare you down. And that's because, due to their size and our size, we think that they're so small and cute and cuddly. But in fact, they are the smallest carnivore that we have here. That is the order Carnivora. So very much their demeanor is that of a carnivore, which is to zone in on a prey. Becky, you'd like to know if an animal's eye coloration affects their eyesight. It does, negligibly. Very, very negligibly. A lot of research has been done on it, especially in humans. Basically, lighter color eyes are better at detecting direction of light, and darker color eyes are better at filtering out light. But it's just so negligible. And almost everything that I've read has come to the same conclusion. You might find that if you have paler eyes, that you may squint a little more in the sun, etc. Darker eyes are able to just put up with it for a little longer. As for the direction of light in general, I don't know if I can think of an example of how that would be helpful. But like I said, it's such a negligible thing. Which is probably why there's so much variety, and there aren't people suddenly, or animals suddenly dying because there's too little pigment in their eyes and that they can't cope. That being said, an animal that is albino, or a person that is albino, has no pigment, which is different to having blue or light colored eyes. Having no pigment whatsoever means that, apart from other problems, blindness is a real problem when it comes to no pigment, and that's because a lot of UV rays can be let into your eyes, and that can be very, very damaging. It's not always damaging. UV is also very good in order for you to convert cholesterol and other things into vitamin D. You need it for, too much UV can also deplete your folates, which is what you need actually for your DNA. But having no pigment at all to protect you from UV rays, in the case of an animal or person with albinism, can cause a blindness. Albinism also means that you don't have neuromelanin, which is another molecule that your body uses to communicate within your body, especially in your brain, hence the neuro. So there can be a lot of illness associated with albinism. And then, of course, when we're talking about the eyes, blindness as well. But that's no pigment whatsoever. That's not just light-colored eyes. Eyes are very, very important, or rather there's so much variation in it, and it's so telling. Animals can sometimes have these large round pupils, slit pupils, horizontally slit pupils, vertically, rectangular, W-shaped. I've seen those in cuttlefish and in rays, like a moon almost. And it all helps the eyes to see exactly what it needs to in order for its survival to be optimal. So cats that hunt close to the ground, even small animals that hunt close to the ground, so you'll see with these dwarf mongoose, their pupils look pretty round, but in fact they are vertically slit. And animals that hunt close to the ground, like these guys, need a vertical slit because it creates what's called a defocus blur. So the animal can determine very easily that's in focus and that's blurry, and that helps them to make a decision while hunting close to the ground. Anyway, I'm going to sit around until the end of show, I think, until I hear something interesting going on. I'll send you over to Pinda and some Ellies in the meantime.
Welcome back, everyone, again. We're still there with the elephant where you left us with two bulls. Now, there's another bull who came join them. Now there are three. If you look carefully now, that one on the left is just arrived just 30 seconds ago. So he's just starting his what he does, like what he does, splashing himself, cooling down. Not for coming to drink, just for cooling down themselves, and also to be able to disturb these flies and stuff like horse flies and ticks. So that's why they hang around. I was right earlier when I said these look like the same bull we saw yesterday. Only two missing at the moment. We'll keep an eye checking around, see if there are any more coming. This is a good time for them to come lazy a little bit here, and then later on they'll carry on again feeding. Looks like the big bull is kind of dozing and waking up again every now and again. Yeah, he's still big. I was a bit worried the other young bull will take over for him, but I still think he's still the biggest we got in Pinda. if you look that one on the left, he looks like he's getting a bit more active by scratching his feet, and also he looks like he must be sliding more into the water, mud, and the way he's moving, but he's kind of scratching himself, kicking. Good question from Karen. Karen, this is a kind of because if you look at the body size of the elephant and the trunk is quite long. When they're stationary like this, sometimes they don't want to put on the floor. They just want to rest up top of their tusk, Caroline. I see that one is coming to say, hey, this is my place. I get here before you. But the problem is, the other one is bigger than the other one. Look at that trunk. He just doesn't move that much, the older one. Yeah, he's a monster still. I think he does much better that one. It's just right now. If you look at that mud, he's just put on himself. He's even wetter than the others. There are some other like trees away from this area. After this, they're gonna walk around and rub themselves, trying to take off these ticks of their skin. Like scratching, which him always feel better to scratch like that from the trees. Sandra, yes, this elephant, they know them very well. Actually, they been hanging around most of the time, all around a lifetime, Sandra. They know, as you can see. You can see it's just like the reason why he come across to this older one like now is just like to learning how to behave to be adult. Otherwise, he would never know what is wrong, what is right. He would think whatever he does is right. So it's very important to have someone like that old big bull now, because whenever he's coming to a mast, he'll be like trying to take control for everything. But because we have an older bull, they'll sort him out, teach him a lesson. Yeah, he's still a big boy, eh? But you can see, if you look at his body, and he also wants to join to play. Oh, he's rubbing himself or what? Yeah. Yeah, look at his tusk size. The way, how far they came from there. The other one is bum. It's amazing to watch them together like that, especially for the old bulls. Sometimes we wonder what they would do when they come across each other, but that will be a different story if they come across in an area where there's a female around, because then he will start to dominate more. It's much better when they all merge together like that. That's why they're not gonna fight, but they'll know. Also, by pushing each other like this is a kind of testing. I am stronger than you or not, in case there's a real fight coming around. But as you can see, also the young one, he thinks he's a bigger now, but he's testing the bigger one. But they say, yeah, listen, you're still a boy. Yeah, here's a good movement for them. It's a lovely sighting for sure. I'm really enjoying them to watch them like that, because we know they're all around. There's no cows around to worry them. You see, when the big one comes, both of them, they move. Pablo, I hope I got your name right, Pablo. Because this place is a lot of trees, as you can see here, they move through between the trees. And sometimes when they come to like fight, and they'll be easily to lift. As you can see, the ears are very, very thin. That's what they make them a lot of ears cut like this. Okay, that one is walking through to that mud, and you can see he's like sniffing on the mud, trying to splash. But yeah, guys, we're gonna move across to Shushan with the little mongoose. Enjoy, guys, there.
That sounds like a great storybook, Tswala and the mongoose. And indeed it is one mongoose, straggler, left at the mound. It will also go out foraging in a bit. Last bits of warming itself up. So small, they need to get warmed up quick because they lose heat so quickly. So come out, get warmed up, and then they're out looking for some breakfast. Much like myself. Oh, you heard the word breakfast, didn't you? Just gorgeous. Well, guys, if you enjoy watching our safari, please go over to our support page and help us out so we can continue to bring you all the little critters like this, as well as the big ones like the elephants that you just saw. So we love being able to show you and educate you about these animals. You all just get to love them more and more and more. Ah, you have a friend. The wind is really picking up. I hope that this afternoon it'll die down a little bit and we can have a really successful afternoon out. I'm going to spend some time in the afternoon, make sure that the den is all okay. It's been a while. But like these guys going out to find some breakfast, so is BK and I. So we'll see you this afternoon. Thanks, guys, for your questions and your comments.